Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sea Hunters. I'm your host, Randy Morton, and as always, I have an extra special guest here with me today, and it is Mr. Javier Otley. Mr. Otley, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good day, everybody. My name, as he indicated, my name is Javier Otley. I'm the Senior Environmental Health Officer and basically responsible for biological control as it relates to mosquitoes.
All right. Now, Mr. Otley, I'm sure you remember us being at the pond the other day, and I'm sure some of our viewers would want to know, why was Randy Morton from Marine Resources and Mr. Otley from Environmental Health at a pond having some interactions or catching fish? What was the purpose behind that activity?
Well, this is an activity that we've been engaged in for some years. Is biological control using fish species. We're using the tilapia in this instance, which we also use guppy as well, but in this instance we use tilapia. Now the tilapia, what we do is that we would catch the smaller ones, and the smaller tilapia, they would feed on the aquatic stages of the mosquito, and we tend to put these mosquito control tilapia in areas that we can overturn. For example, like large cisterns, tanks, ponds, where we would have breeding of mosquitoes, because we have a different species of mosquitoes around, and the tilapia being the carnivorous fish that it is, it actually feeds on anything that moves in the aquatic stage within the water bodies. So.
Now, Mr. Javier, that's nice, all well said. How long has this cooperation been taking place between our departments? You representing Environmental Health and me representing the Department of Marine Resources.
I can't put an exact date to it, but this might be, well, maybe say 10 years or more, maybe.
All right. So you're saying that we've been working together for about 10 years to counteract the uprising of the mosquito population within our community. Now, in terms of the impacts, can you speak to that in terms of, let's say, dengue or other diseases that are transmitted by mosquitoes?
Well, I can safely say that when everybody else was having outbreak in dengue and other mosquito-borne diseases, Zika and so forth, in the rest of the Caribbean, we can safely say that in Nevis we did not have at least one case of mosquito-borne illness. That attributable to a few factors. We had actually had COVID. We had COVID, which was on, and I must say that quarantining would have actually assisted in controlling these diseases from entering, number one. And even so, if anybody who may have slipped through the cracks, we, in having the mosquitoes under control, because we have an active vector control unit which deals with other aspects, and well, in my case, I would just deal with the biological control as it relates to the water bodies that can be overturned, or we would not be using chemicals per se in these areas, because number one, the mosquitoes, they develop and the residual, they just learn the chemical.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So they build up some sort of resistance
to it. Yes.
But there's no resistance to a biological control at all.
No.
So the approach, I think, is it's a good one. But what inspired this particular cooperation? Because I know, working in the system, getting cooperation between departments, especially when they are not in the same ministry, at times could be very challenging. You would have to write a letter and that letter goes through multiple stages and different individuals before it actually gets to where it's supposed to go. And then the question would be whether or not it would be approved. So tell the viewers about how this project, or what inspired you to take that extra step and reach out to get this sort of cooperation.
For some time, and for one, as an individual, I am a hobbyist and I love fish.
Okay.
And I've always learned about fish. I've done training in fish, fish raising, breeding, and so forth. And one of the things I've noted, even from the days of years ago with Dr. Daly, when they had the pond there, and to me I find that pond was a waste. That's my take. I found that it was a waste, because just having the fishes there, and they're just there as ornaments. We're not eating them, we're not using them for anything else, we just had them there as ornaments. And then I think you came in after, shortly after, that's when you came in, and I would have indicated to you, and also to, I don't remember who the director at the time.
I think that may have been Miss Atherton.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was Miss Atherton, yes. Yes, it was Miss Atherton. And I would have indicated to both of you the need to utilize the pond for other means than just having it there, just sitting. And then, lo and behold, that I tried to do this biological control before. I had resistance from even the Ministry of Health, I must say. Because sometimes not being in an area, you may wonder, okay, that's rubbish. You may not come out and say it's rubbish, but you may use some diplomatic terms.
Okay.
So, yes. But after that, and speaking to both you and Ms. Atherton, I remember now, and I would have brought it to the attention of my supervisor, and we decided that we're gonna venture into it. We actually had the intervention of the Ministry of Health, my supervisor and everybody, and we constructed an holding area where we would we'll contain them, breed a few at times, and then we would have our own distribution area instead of we having to come to you all the time and doing that. But it has been a long struggle, and we have actually have it on the go now for, as I say, about roughly 10 years.
So, Mr. Utley, you spoke quite extensively about the project, and I would like to personally commend you, although we've been doing this thing together.
Without you, it would not be possible.
I am aware of that, but you know, the idea had to come from someone somewhere, and they had to have the sort of passion for what they're doing to take that step, knowing very well that there would be numerous obstacles in the way. But whatever obstacles came up, we were able to overcome them. Right. And at the end of the day, the general public were able to reap the benefits of the work that we had been doing. Now, Mr. Utley, you said that there was no major outbreaks of Zika or anything of that nature. What advice would you give for our neighboring territories, seeing that we achieve a certain degree of success with this biological control program?
What I would say to our neighboring islands and to anybody who seems to be or would be fighting this vector called mosquito, because they are very clever creatures, that biological control is one of the best ways to go when you have artificial containers or even natural containers that you can't overturn, because without water there would be no mosquitoes. The mosquitoes are so smart that they would go and lay their eggs on containers. They're not knowing, you're not knowing, okay, whether eggs are there or not unless you get close to it. Like, for example, where there is a tire, we're not going to put fish in a tire, that's for sure. But the mosquitoes would go and lay eggs on the tires, especially the Aedes aegypti, because they love the artificial containers. This one is the one that causes dengue fever, Zika, and so forth. So what they would do, they go and they lay the eggs on the side of containers, even in barrels. If you know that you're going to have the water there, I could tell you this much, you could utilize some biological control, because fish on a whole is therapy. Fish on a whole is therapy. When you're looking at fish moving around, it soothes the mind and everything. So you know, you're having your own therapy, and you're actually controlling the mosquitoes in the aquatic stage. So I would tell anybody that once you cannot have that source reduction, and you must have that water body, one of the best thing to do would be the biological control to prevent any resistance of chemical.
Okay. Now, I think that's wonderful advice, and seeing that we've had so much success in terms of our mosquito reduction program, I believe our neighboring territories should really take a close look at this to see how best they could move forward in terms of reducing the occurrence of mosquito-borne illnesses. Now, I remember a young fellow approached us at the pond. They refer to him as Leany. He works at the Department of Agriculture, and he said some things to us, and you know, it warmed my heart in some ways, because this is a young man who works for the Department of Agriculture. I don't know how much he makes, but he said he takes out of his salary or his wage to purchase some food to feed the fish. That same fish is what we have been using to protect our people and our nation. So, Leany would like to say thank you, not just on behalf of us here at Sea Hunters, but for the people of Nevis on a whole, for the sacrifice that you made to help us do our job better to protect the people. Now, Mr. Utley, do you have any final words for our viewers?
Well, to all our viewers, I'd like to say that this is the rainy season. We know that we'll have rain upon us straight down for the rest of the year, and wherever there is water, there will be mosquitoes. As I indicated before, for your artificial containers, your small containers, to ensure that you turn them over. Some persons like to say, like the quality department, or they have this high influx of mosquitoes, mosquito problems. But one of the things that happen is that the mosquitoes breed right there in their premises. Now we have other issues like septic tanks, which would breed, and these would breed a different type of mosquito, would be the Culex mosquito. And these mosquitoes, these are basically nuisance mosquitoes. But what you have to ensure in this case that you have your septic tanks properly sealed. On the vent stop, you put a piece of wire mesh over it. This wire mesh would prevent the entrance and exit of any mosquitoes.
Okay.
Because the mosquitoes are so smart that they would enter right there. They sense the water, and they go lay the eggs, and they return.
Okay.
And then when the young ones come out now, they come straight up the same vent stop, and they affect the whole community. Now, as it relates to bodies of water that you cannot control, whether it's a pond, it's a lagoon, whatever the case may be, if you have an issue, you can contact the department. But bear in mind this, you have to make sure that you fix your issues first before you contact him, because as I indicated, biological control is one of the best ways to go, because you're not going to have any residual from chemicals, you ain't gonna have any resistance building up in the mosquitoes, because these species, they're gonna just attack whatever moves inside the water. As I indicated earlier, that we use the smaller species, the smaller fishes. The reason for this is because when the larger ones, when they get larger, they can't get to the end of the pond where you would have the actual breeding. So we use the smaller ones for this. In other instances, we also use guppy as well. We have some guppies down there that we are breeding presently, and we utilize them. These are ways and means of doing biological control here in Nevis, and I would urge anyone to get into that type of hobby. It's a very good venture.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Otley.
You're most welcome.
Not just for myself, but for all of us here on the island of Nevis. The work that you're doing, it is commendable. And I would like to add one little tidbit at the end of our interview. I was made aware of some individuals who received some payments for their work during the COVID outbreak. That's nice. I'm sure that we all appreciate the work that you've been doing. But there are others, such as Mr. Otley and myself, who's been on the front lines. But we don't do this for a paycheck. We do this for the benefit of our people, and we really believe and feel that the wealth of a nation is the health of a nation, and we want St. Kitts and Nevis to be the richest nation in the world. Hence, we do what we do to ensure that we have a healthy population. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time on Sea Hunters.